Hey, it's Mark with Spinnaker Property Management. Here talking about Initiative 2023-01, and we're going to jump right into Section 6. Okay, Section 6 reads, landlords are prohibited from carrying out student/school year and cold weather evictions. Number 1, except as provided in subsection 4, it shall be a defense to eviction if the eviction qualifies as a student/school year eviction or cold weather eviction. Number 2, an eviction qualifies as a student/school year eviction if it would require the tenant to vacate their dwelling unit during the school year and the tenant or any resident of the dwelling unit is a child or student. B, a person having legal custody of a child or student, including but not limited to the child or the student's parents, step-parent, adoptive parent, guardian, foster parent, or custodian. Or C, an educator. Number 3, an eviction qualifies as prohibited cold weather eviction if it would require the tenant to vacate their dwelling unit between November 1st and April 1st. Okay, number 4, I'm not going to go into the subsections, but I'm just going to summarize here. The section does not apply and prevent an eviction if the reason for termination of the tenancy is due to 1, if the owner wants to occupy or sell the property, if the property is condemned, or if it's a shared housing where they want to ask the roommate to vacate, if the occupant is sexually harassed, if the housing provider is sexually harassed by the tenant, and if the tenant doesn't comply with the 3-day or 10-day notice to vacate for drug-related activity, or if the occupant is maintaining an unlawful business or conduct. And the last one is because the tenant's conduct has a substantial detrimental impact on or constitutes an imminent threat to the health and safety of other tenants in the rental building or the owner. Man, it's really hard for me to even read it and say it, right? So basically there's some exemptions on that. Okay, all that aside, basically what this is saying, that if the household in the home during the school year or during the period between November 1st and April 1st do not pay their rent, an eviction cannot be started until after that window of time. Okay, got it. You know, we want our children to have access to education and not have to worry about housing. I'm totally agree with that. Absolutely 100%. On the surface, it sounds great, but the consequences down line are significant. So, scenario, the household at any time between these windows goes delinquent on their rent, and they've stopped payment, and it goes month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4. Average rent in the Tacoma-Pierce County area is roughly $1,600. Times that by however many months, let's say it's 5 months, we're looking at about $8,000. When it comes time for this moratorium to lift, now the housing provider is trying to work out a plan with the occupant. If the occupant chooses to stay in the home and not vacate, they don't have the resources to capture this $8,000 that's in delinquency, then there'll be an eviction process. And if the housing provider and the occupant go to court and the ruling is in favor of the housing provider, which it most likely will be, this family is now collared with the burden of an unlawful detainer, an eviction. They will be sent to collections and have poor rental history. Now, if that's not a recipe to creating no access to housing in the future, I don't know what is. I understand that they're trying to keep people in the housing, but to have it be at the cost of the housing provider, and that it's the burden of the housing provider to go through the legal process to get the home and to recapture the unpaid rent, that is not the best way to go through this. what about them having resources from the government agencies to support this? Well, that'd be great. And right now they are tapped. There isn't any in the reserves to help with sustaining housing. So before going and saying, yes, let's just create a blanket eviction moratorium, let's come up with a better plan, because this one is not good. And that's why I'm asking you to vote no in November on initiative 2023-01. And if you want to find out more and get access to it, just click the link below, and we'll see you at the next episode.